Let me welcome you all again to our 30-minute vinyasa practice. For today's practice, you see my t-shirt? I don't know if you can read it or not. It says, be hippie, and that's what we're going to do today for our practice. We're going to focus on the hips. And there are a whole variety of muscles that are associated with what we often call tight hips. And those are the muscles on the outer part of the hips, the inner part of the thighs, the abdominal muscles, the gluteal muscles, so pretty much everything in the mid part of the body. And that's what we're going to work on today. So take a few moments. I hope that meets with everyone's approval. Take a few moments now to settle into your practice. And we're just going to take 3 breaths. And with each exhale, let go of any tension, any anticipation, any reluctance, and just become present. Just let it all go. Now take a deep breath and release it. 2 more like that. Deep breath. And release the breath, release the tension, let everything go. And 1 last time. And then just let it all go. And then open your eyes and come to our reclining posture with the legs out in front. And we're going to begin this practice, as we often do, with movement at the joints, just to start to loosen things up. So bend the left knee, and then straighten the leg, and then bend and straighten, and bend and straighten. Now bend the knee, and then bring the knee across the body over to the right, and then we're just going to make circles with the knees. Since we're focusing on the hips, we're going to dwell on this for a little bit. We're going to go around 3 times each direction. This is my 3rd time, across the body, and then straightening the leg, and then way off to the left, and then knee towards left shoulder. Now go back the other way, knee out to the left, and then straight, and then across the body, and then back towards the left shoulder. This is my 2nd one around. And the 3rd and last time around. And now straighten the leg and just rotate the foot a little bit at the ankle, and then bring that leg down. Now over to the other side, right knee bends, straighten, press the heel up. And straighten, press up through the heel. Feel that in the back of the leg, into the gluteal muscle. 3rd time, last one. And then bend. Now knee off to the left, and then straighten. And then to the right. And then towards that right shoulder. And then across the body. This is my 2nd one around. And the 3rd and last one. Now knee towards shoulder, and then knee off to the right, and then straighten the leg, and to the left. 2nd time. And I can really start to feel the muscles, this is the last one, in that hip joint. Straighten the leg, as they just start to open up a little bit, and we're circling the foot at the ankle. That's it, and bring it down. Now, find a seat, and let's actually sit on the knees. So you can see from the side my hips are resting on my heels. If that bothers the front of your knees, then sit on a blanket, maybe doubled over. Now take a deep breath. Now right ear towards right shoulder. We're just going to explore range of motion in the neck, and go around twice is all. And then back the other way a couple of times. And then back to center. Now bring your chin towards your chest. And then lift the chin, not too high, not too much of a stretch in the throat. We're just noticing range of motion in that neck joint, or the joints. And then back to center. Now take a twist to the left, little spinal rotation, and then a twist to the right. And then back to the left. Keep the core engaged, and back to the right. And back to center, reach the arms up and overhead. And then bring the right hand down, reach the left hand up and over. Gentle movement, left hand down, right hand reaching. And right hand down, left hand reaching. And reach with the right hand. Let's do one more time on each side. Right hand down, left hand reaches. And last one, left hand down, and the right hand reaching. Bring your hands to your knees. Now bring your chin to your chest. Draw your navel in, round the spine forward. And you probably start to feel that in the low back. Bring your forehead down a little bit more. And then inhale, come up. Bring your hands down behind you. Bring the shoulder blades together. Elbows come closer together. Lift your chin. And then exhale. Bring the hands back to the knees. Palms face down. Bend the elbows. Draw your navel in. Bring your forehead down towards your knees. Inhale, rise up. Hands behind. Lift the chin. Pull the shoulder blades together. Just a little back bend. And then one more time. Rounding forward. And then rising. And rounding back. And then back to center. Take a breath. Just let your palms rest on your thighs. Now let's come to table pose. Press your hands into the mat so the shoulders rise up a little bit. Now draw the navel up. And now lengthen the spine. Reach your tailbone back. Reach your head forward so you almost feel a little stretch in the neck. Now drop your belly and lift your chin, coming into cow pose. And exhale into cat pose. Now continue flowing between cow and cat at your own pace. And remembering that this practice is focusing on all those muscles that affect the hips. See if you can bring your awareness to the hips and notice how this flow feels in the hips. Continue flowing between cow and cat. A couple more times through. And I'm starting to notice that actually. I'm feeling a stretch in my hips. I'm noticing how the stretch in the low back even affects the way the hips feel. One more time. Now come back to a neutral spine when you're ready. And then press the hips back to the heels. Walk your hands forward a little bit. And now feel that stretch in the low back for many of us. Glide forward. Drop the hips. Elbows straight. Press the chest forward. You feel that in the front of the legs at the very top. And then press back again towards that child's pose. And then glide forward. Drop the hips. Lift the chin just a little, not too much. You're looking mostly forward and not up. And back towards child's pose. And then glide it forward again. Drop the hips down. And then back to table pose. Once you're there, bring the hands back so they're under the shoulders. Take a breath. And one more. Now, step your right foot forward so it comes between the hands. I'll turn and face you for this. And then press that right knee forward. Lift your gaze up so you're looking towards the front of the space you're in. And probably start to feel that in the hip flexor muscles at the top of the left leg. Now, the hip flexor muscles are used basically to lift the leg up. So that's a flexion of those muscles when you lift your leg up, like lifting your knee towards your chest. Keep pressing that right knee forward. And here, we're extending those muscles, so the hip flexors are being extended as the leg sort of straightens. So notice my left leg is straight, and that's why I'm starting to feel that stretch in the front of the left leg and the hip flexors. Now, bring that right knee back and step the left leg forward. Let's begin to stretch that hip flexor muscles on the right side, pressing the left knee forward and starting to feel that, for most of us at least, at the top of the right leg. Gaze is straight forward. A couple more breaths. Good. Now step that left knee back and then come to the feet. Come to a squat, a yoga squat. And this is one of my favorite poses for stretching out the hip flexor muscles. Well, actually not just the hip flexors, lots of things. But that whole complex of muscles surrounding the waist, including the hips, the glutes, the hamstrings. And the wonderful thing about this pose, at least as far as I'm concerned, is you don't have to do much because gravity is doing the work. Gravity is pulling your tailbone down. Just keep your gaze forward, your spine long. Keep the elbows to the inside of the knees. And continue breathing in and out. And can you bring your awareness to the outside of the hips and just notice what that feels like in the outside of the hips? Couple more breaths. Actually, 5 more breaths. We're going to stay here a while. Really start to stretch that out. 3 more. And 2 more breaths. And 1 more. And now to finish, to come out of this pose, we're going to bring the hands down to the mat, spread the fingers wide, thumbs are pointing towards one another, and then we're going to straighten the legs and bring the feet so they're parallel to one another, and just let your head drop down into a standing forward fold. Probably feeling that in the hamstrings. Bend the knees if you need to, if that creates too much sensation with the legs straight. Maybe walk your hands back a little bit closer to the feet and let your head get a little heavier. That's going to increase the sensation in the hamstrings as well as the gluteal muscles. 2 more breaths. And 1 more. Good. Now rise to a half lift and bring the feet so they're about hip width apart. We're going to do a standing twist. Bend your right knee, reach the left hand up, press the right hand into the mat. That right hand should be just below your face. So if you look down, if you look straight down, you're going to see that right hand pressing into the mat. Now bend your right knee a little bit more, make sure your left leg is straight, and look up towards the thumb on the left hand. 1 more breath. And then release and come over to the other side. Left hand comes down, left knee bends, the right leg is straight. And again, notice whether you're feeling this in the hips, and if so, where. 1 more breath. And release, come over to the other side again. We're going to do it twice on each side. So the right hand comes down, the right knee is nice and bent, so the left hip is way up above the right hip. Reach up through that left hand, look up to the thumb on the left hand. Good job. Last time. Switch it out. Left hand down, left knee bends, right leg is straight, and the right arm is reaching up and overhead. Can you see the thumb on your right hand in the peripheral vision on that right side? And that's it. Let it go. Bring your gaze down, and now walk the feet back to downward facing dog. Stretch it out in downward dog and try and not pedal it out for a moment. Just stretch the heels down towards the mat as best you can. And don't worry about whether they touch or not. For some of you, your heels will touch. For others, it won't. Don't worry about it. 1 more breath. Good. Now pedal it out. So bend one knee and press the other hip off to the side. And then go to the other knee and press that hip off to the opposite side. Pedal through that a few times. And again, keep your awareness on the hips. In this flowing motion, at least I'm feeling this in the outer part of the hips. And then come to stillness. Lengthen your spine by pressing your hands into the mat. Now reach your left leg up and overhead, and then find 3-legged dog. Open the hips to the left. Work on stacking your left hip over the right hip, and the left knee is bent. Now level the hips off, and then step your left foot forward so it comes between the hands, and we've come to runner's lunge, of course. Now bring the left hand to the inside of the left foot and bring your right knee to the mat. Untuck the toes on the right foot. We're going to move into lizard pose. For some of you, you can bring your elbows all the way down to the mat like I am. For some, you may not be able to come down that far with the upper body. If that's the case, then just keep your hands on the mat, but bend your elbows as much as you can like this. Or if you have a block or a blanket or a bolster or some other prop, you can rest your elbows on that. Now what I'd like you to do is let your left knee move off to the left a little bit, so you come up onto the pinky toe side of the left foot. And this is externally rotating that left thigh, the femur in the hip on the left side. And just notice what that feels like. Notice where you feel sensation as the knee moves off to the left even more. And now slowly, with control, bring the sole of the foot back to the mat and bring that left knee closer to the left shoulder. Pause for a moment. Now hug the knee into the shoulder really tight. So you're touching the shoulder with the inside of the knee. And then just release. Come back up onto the hands. And heel toe that left foot between your hands. Bring the left hand to the outside of the left foot. Then tuck the toes and bring the right knee off the mat. We're going to move now into three-legged dog a second time, reaching that left leg up and overhead and opening the hips again to the left. Now level the hips off. And now we're going to so bring your and then untuck the toes. This is hips settle, and maybe walk that right knee back. Just inch the right knee back a little bit. And one of the reasons I love Pigeon Pose is that it hits so much in this hip area. I can feel it at the top of the right thigh. Remember, those are the hip flexor muscles. So we're extending that right leg, that hip joint on the right side, and that's stretching out the hip flexors. I can also feel it on the left side, in the left outer part of the hip, as well as the hamstrings in the inner part of the left thigh. So there's a lot going on in this pose. When you're ready, slowly come down to a resting pigeon pose. This is bringing your chest further to the mat, and it's extenuating that stretch in the hip on the left side. So it's further externally rotating that left leg. Couple more breaths. You can come all the way down, by the way, if you're able to here, or you can stay up on your elbows or your hands, wherever you're comfortable in the pose. One more breath. And good. Now walk back up onto the hands, and then tuck the toes, bring that right knee off the mat, and then reach the left leg all the way up and overhead for our third three-legged dog on this side. Open the hips a little bit more to the left. And then level the hips and come down to downward facing dog. Now stretch it out in downward dog, pressing the left heel particularly down towards the mat. And then on an inhale, reach the right leg up. Find three-legged dog, our very first one on the second side, on this right side. Open the hips to the right. Keep your awareness on the sensation in the hips in the pose. Now level the hips, and then right foot steps forward between the hands. Untuck the toes and bring the left knee to the mat. Now bring that right hand to the inside of the right foot, and let's find lizard pose on this side. Come down to the elbows if you're able, and maybe scooch that left knee back just a little bit. Now just like we did on the other side, once you get established in the pose, let your right knee come off to the right, up onto the pinky toe side of the right foot. Take a moment once you get to kind of maximum extension there to notice what that feels like in the hip on the right side. Where are you feeling it? And then when you're ready, bring that right knee towards the right shoulder. if you can, touching the right shoulder with the right knee. So hug that right knee in. And then walk up onto the hands. And move that right hand to the outside of the right foot. Tuck the toes, bring the left knee off the mat, and reach the right leg up and overhead. Three-legged dog. Second one on this side. Press that left heel down towards the mat. Now level the hips. And then step that right foot forward between the hands. Whoops, that's not what we want to do. We want to come to Pigeon Pose. So bring that right knee towards the right hand and the right foot towards the left hand. Untuck the toes and bring the left knee off the mat. Hopefully you all got that. Sorry for my miscue. And then come into our Pigeon Pose. Let your hips settle to the mat. You can use a prop here. A blanket under that left hip will help, or a block, or a bolster. And then let the left hip settle. So the hips stay pretty much level in this pose, or at least ideally. That's what we're working towards. Scoot the left knee back a little more. Now take a moment just to notice the sensation. So much going on in this pose. So much sensation produced. Now take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, come to resting pigeon, bringing the elbows to the mat if you're able. Maybe walking the hands forward a little bit more. Perhaps some of you can let your forehead rest on the mat. That's a very deep external rotation of that right leg. Now just breathe. And 2 more breaths. Now slowly begin to walk the hands back towards the body. And then tuck the toes and bring your left knee off the mat. Press back on the left heel. And then reach the right leg up and overhead into our third three-legged dog on this side. And then release. Bring the right foot down. We've come back to downward facing dog. And stretch it out. Press the heels down. Keep your awareness on the hips. So notice where you're feeling this in the hips. Now begin to walk the feet forward about halfway. So come about halfway down your mat. And then bring your arms out to a T and rise slowly, coming all the way up. Now bring your hands to heart center. And we're going to work on a standing figure 4 now. Another hip opening pose, but with the added challenge of balance. Bring the weight to the right foot, pick the left foot up, and bring the left ankle to the right knee. And you can use support here. I'm going to do it here against this door. And you can bend that right knee once you get there. And I prefer this as support as opposed to doing this. So I see a lot of you kind of reaching your arm out towards a wall for support, and I don't prefer that because it takes you off balance. When you use the wall as support on your back, your hands are at heart center and you're actually nicely balanced. You're just getting a little support from the wall. One more breath, wherever you are, and then release. Bring your hands back to heart center. Weight again on both feet. Just take a breath. Good. Now let's find the standing figure 4 on the second side. Right ankle to left knee. And then begin to bend that knee and let your hips drop down. Press the left knee towards the floor. And again, if you like, use the wall near you or a post or whatever you have as support. 2 more breaths. Good job. 1 more breath. And release. Bring the hands back to heart center and bring the feet apart, toes wider than the heels. Let's come down second time, yoga squat. Elbows to the inside of the knees. Spine nice and long. Your gaze is forward so your chin is level. So try not to round the back much at all. There'll be a little rounding in the lower back. You can't avoid that. Now press your elbows into your knees and then bring your hands towards your chest. That'll open up the knees even a little bit more. And that's it. Release it and bring the hands down behind you and then bring the soles of the feet together into Cobbler Pose. This is a really common pose. We do this quite a bit. Remember that you can move your heels away from you or closer. The closer the heels are to the pubic bone, the more intense the stretch in the hips. And then once you're there, I want you to bring your hands to your ankles and pull up on the ankles so that you feel your head rising up. Feel the shoulders come back a little bit. And now bring your awareness back to your hips. And notice where in this complex of muscles in the hip area, the mid part of the body, you are feeling this pose. Where is the sensation? Good. One more breath. Great job. Release. You can bring the hands to the outside of the knees to help the knees back to center if you like. And then come all the way down to your back. And we're going to do a second figure 4, this time on our back, or supine. So bring your left ankle to your right knee. And then interlace the fingers behind that right leg. And press the left knee away. Another way to do this pose is to use your wall. And I'll see if I can show you how that'll work. Scoot your butt about 16 inches away from the wall. Bring your right foot to the wall. Press the sole of the right foot into the wall and bring the left ankle to the right knee again. So you don't need to interlace fingers here. You just press that left knee away, and you can actually use your hands now to press the knee away, the left knee. And this will allow you to get a really big, wonderful stretch out of that hip on the left side. Careful you don't go too far. And also remember to flex the left foot so that you engage the muscles of that left knee and protect the knee joint. Couple more breaths here. And one more. And after the exhale, release. Let's go over to the other side. Again, I'm going to use the wall as support. So I'm going to bring my left foot to the wall. And notice my shin is about level with the floor. And then I'm going to bring my right ankle to the left knee. And then I can bring both hands to that right knee and press the right knee away. I'm still flexing my right foot so that the muscles of the knee are engaged. And then press the knee away. And take about 3 breaths to feel the sensation that you're creating in that hip. Try not to curl your tailbone up, so keep the tailbone pressing down towards the mat. One more breath. Good, now release. And I'm going to move back to my mat. You can do the same if you've moved away from your mat. Now, hug your knees in towards your chest. And then let the knees come so they're right over the hips and your tailbone is pressing down. Your feet are still off the mat. Then bring the feet to the mat and bring your feet wide so the feet are at the very edges of the mat. You can bring your arms. Now the secret feet on travel to the left. So this is kind of an interesting pose because we're internally rotating. And feel the stretch, particularly on that right leg. Notice the internal rotation on the right leg. And now notice the stretch in the hip on the right side. See if we can press that left knee down a little bit more and then pull the right knee towards the left foot a little bit. And then bring it back to center and go over to the other side and do the same thing on the second side. So pull that left knee kind of towards the right foot Notice the sensation that you're experiencing in that left hip joint. You may feel that even into the abdominal muscles, perhaps into the glutes. All those muscles are connected. They don't act on their own. And then back to center. Now hug the knees in towards your chest. And then arms come back out to a T. Let the knees travel to the left and land. Just going to do a spinal twist. Gaze off to the right. Try and relax the back of both shoulders. Now see if your right knee can touch the left knee. One more breath. And good work. Back to center and over to the other side so the knees travel to the right this time. Your gaze is off to the left. And now see if you can relax that left knee, maybe lifting that left hip up a little bit more so that the left knee actually rests on the right knee. Now relax the back of the shoulders. So we're deepening the spinal twist. Now bring your awareness back to the hips and notice where, if you are, you're feeling sensation in the hips in the pose. Good. Now back to center. Now bring the soles of the feet together and bring your hands to your feet, to the pinky. Knees. Let your heels come down. Now take a deep breath in, and then as you exhale, bring the heels just a little bit closer to the pubic bone and let the knees come apart a bit more. Notice sensation. Where are you feeling it? For most of you, probably the inner part of the hips, the groin, or the inner part of the legs, rather, the groin. Another deep breath in and exhale. Let the heels come just a little closer. The knees come farther apart just a little. And release it. Let it go. Reach the feet up to the sky. Press the palms into the mat. Legs up the wall pose. Press the heels high. And then release. You can rock yourself gently to a seat. And once you're seated, find a nice cross-legged posture. Bring your hands to heart center. Bring your awareness back to your hips for a moment. And we're just going to take 3 gentle breaths, taking this opportunity to notice the hips. Notice what you're feeling, noticing all the sensations. And one more breath. And let it go. As always, I offer you loving kindness. May you be happy and well, and may you be safe. May you be peaceful, and may you always be at ease. Namaste.